Welcome to Life by Design. I'm your host, Robyne, and I am thrilled to welcome you to this space for real conversations about how we live, how we show up day in and day out, because the quality of our life is shaped by our habits. What we do in ordinary time allows us to be extraordinary. We can unpack what it takes to truly live well and be well in real life. Welcome to Life by Design. And I'm just so excited that you are here. Welcome back to Life by Design. Today is a treat. I had the chance to connect with Amanda Gore. Now, she is a professional speaker. She is an author. She is just joy. Like in her 70s, like she has so much insight to offer around things around communication and leadership and stress. I had so much fun connecting with Amanda. We have the episode here for you now. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. So enjoy just getting a little dose from an Australian powerhouse who gives us a really great opportunity to listen to the stories we tell ourselves. Amanda, welcome to this episode of Life by Design. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Oh, well, we were chatting beforehand, and I think I just found a new bestie.
Oh, I love it. Yes.
Love it.
Well, thank you so much. And Amanda, you have, as I said to you when I first jumped on this call, your work is so refreshing. Like when I took a deep dive and was looking at your materials and seeing you on stage, it just felt like this breath of fresh air. Can you let our listeners know all about the good work that you're doing, especially around the work that you do around joy, which I think the world needs a big dose of right now?
Oh, that's so kind of you. Thank you very much. I would like to say that I have mastered the art of joy and I'm just, just a goddess of joy, really. But the only reason I write on joy, and I've been speaking about joy and how it works in the workplace for, I think it's 20 years now, is because I woke up one morning and was told, knew something, that I had to write a book on joy. And I couldn't do it. I was one of the most joyless people I knew. Obviously, that's why I had to write the book. And seriously, I was in a miserable marriage. I'm divorced now, but we're best friends. So he's a lovely bloke, but I was miserable. I wasn't well. I tried to write the book. I'd never had trouble writing books before, but I could not write this book. One morning I woke up, and soon after my mum had died, actually, and I had this, dream, vision thing. And my mum said to me, go downstairs and meditate, and I'm putting together a writing committee and we'll download the information. Now, I have to tell you, I was not in any way, shape or form that kind of person back then.
Yeah.
Like, what? But I thought, well, nothing else has worked. So I went downstairs. I had that book written in about 4 weeks. I wrote 35 pages, I think, after that meditation. And I didn't meditate either. I mean, I taught meditation, but I didn't meditate on a regular basis. Yeah. And so that's where it started. And Lao Tzu, the Chinese philosopher, I'm sure you know, said, we teach best what we most need to learn.
Yes.
So then it kind of morphed into that. And it's interesting, Robyne, because I've been speaking a long time, and my journey in the last, and as I evolve, my presentations evolve. Of course. And in the last 2 years, I'd say, they have kind of morphed, because I was just doing another podcast and someone said, oh, well, we learn through pain. And I said, well, we can learn through joy as well. Everything shifts. If you're with a group of people and you're hysterically laughing, or you just watch a really funny movie, your physiology actually shifts, that. And then that shifts the belief systems at times and shifts behaviors. But it's kind of moved. And I always make sure that the presentations are funny and engaging. And it's like we were saying, a nonverbal communication with the audience. Because when they're in that kind of joyful, laughing state, everything chills and you can get profound. So it's part of the process of speaking where you take them emotionally up and down and up and down. But as I've evolved in the last couple of years, the message is shifting. It's still around joy, but this was a sign. I moved into a new place. I've moved a lot in the last 3 years because I came back to Dallas and I'm living in Dallas. And I was unpacking a box and this book, I didn't even know I had this book. It's a little black book like this. Never seen it before. I must have because I packed it, but my mind, never seen it before. And out falls this book just by itself, boof, on the floor. I went, well, maybe I should read that. So I read it and this line jumped out of it. It's called Beyond Doubt.
Okay.
And it was written a gazillion years ago by some woman who, I forget the story now, but the line that jumped out was that joy is the embodiment of love.
Yes. That's beautiful.
And it's such a beautiful line. And I must find her name so I can acknowledge her. But that's how things have shifted. And with your work on hope, there's a perfect dovetailing in that. There's another man that I've listened to recently who was a man who died for 3 hours and came back to life, Jonathan Ashford. And if I boil down what Jonathan's been sharing with the world and my interpretation of it, it is that fundamentally every moment of every day we have the choice of, do I judge or love? So do I judge an experience, what's going on in my life, myself, the other person, or do I love it and embrace it and embody it?
Wow.
And so that's where it's really interesting, because in the corporate world, you wouldn't think that would go over so well, but it is.
Absolutely.
People are really resonating with it. And I suspect that's part of a tool to give you hope.
Yes, absolutely.
You're making a conscious choice not to go down that judgment fear line, because that's what judgment is. It's all based in fear.
Yes.
And pursue the love joy line. Yes. But it's got to be conscious choice.
Absolutely. Amanda, you said that so well. And oh my goodness, there's so many different threads I would love to pull on from what you just shared. First, I just wanted to get clarity. So you're swinging all the way back to when you wrote that book on joy. So just so I heard that correctly. So you actually had this, like, you had already lost your mother. Like, you had already lost your mother, and then you had this experience where you were, again, like this kind of intuitive direction to go do this thing, and you listened to it. And oh my gosh, like that is, I just find that so heartwarming to hear of that share.
It's really unusual though, because it didn't normally happen to me. And I woke up with a really vivid, and we just had to acknowledge your puppy in the background.
Oh yeah, we have Navy. Yeah, Navy has joined us. Hello, Navy. Yeah, there she is.
Just make sure she's surveying the world, make sure it's safe for you.
Yes, she's got my thing.
Yeah, those things never happened to me. And this was a really vivid, I didn't know if it was a dream or a vision. Yeah. And I don't remember dreams normally, but it was very vivid, very strong. So I assume there were guides, God, whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
Buddha, anything that works for you. Sent me a message.
Yeah. Do you know, I just had an opportunity to interview, her name is Catherine Duncan, and she's a spiritual, she was a chaplain. She was she's had this remarkable career. And she talks about this idea that every once in a while, it's almost as if like the other side, it's like it gets close enough that we can see or have communication. And again, she has supported like 1,000 deaths, like people like literally in these final moments, and just that veil between the two sides of life and death, sometimes that they come close. And we do have, she talks so openly about messages and information and so I thought it's so interesting hearing your story after, hearing about Catherine's work. But it reminds me of, years ago when I first came across in my studies, Carl Jung's work, where he was talking about synchronicity, and he talks about every once in a while. This was like, Jung was Freud's student, so this is so many years ago. But he talked about this idea that sometimes the spiritual self, it actually like kind of rubs up against our reality, and that when the spiritual realm rubs up against reality, we have this thing called synchronicity, where we will have a moment in time, like you just described, the vision, this again, just this awakening of go do this thing, and
knowing.
the knowing, and you did it, and look at that, how it influenced your career and your life afterwards, which it, like, Amanda, that's amazing. I love hearing stories like this.
Yeah, me too. But it hadn't happened to me before. So that was and since then, so the other thing is that this year, I've never been one really for goals and vision boards and stuff like that. Now, I do believe that on this, let's say, judgment side here, the stories we tell ourselves are everything.
Of course.
And our perception of life. And most people know that, but they know it. Well, they know it in their heads, but they don't know it in their hearts. Yes. And my first business was called Head to Heart, Head number 2 Heart Proprietary Limited. Yeah. And ever since then, I've been trying to get the two connected. Yeah. And so it's that self-talk that's going on, that's doing the judging, largely of yourself too, which then makes you judge everybody else out of fear. And relaxing into the wisdom. This is, I've got to understand, I've got to know the outcome. This is, I'm being, and I just know. Yeah. And I'd love to say I've mastered this, I'd love to say, oh yes, I'm a goddess of this, but no, I'm still practicing.
Yes. I love that. And again, the thread to pull there is thinking about this, so often we don't even notice the stories we're telling ourselves. Yeah. And yet it impacts our perception of the day, or it impacts how we see ourselves, or those labels that we carry. And I also just really want to underline what you said about when we're judging ourselves so critically, like we are then judging other people that way. And that makes it that much more difficult to be able to get clarity in terms of how we are showing up and what that looks like.
Exactly. And if you take that a step further, because the first part of what you were saying, epigenetics shows us that 95 to 99% of the time we are literally unconscious of what we're thinking.
Yes.
And the problem is that the stories that we embedded in ourselves as toddlers. Like I'm just using chat to create a graphic of a terrified toddler inside a grown-up body.
Yes.
Because almost every grown-up you meet is a terrified toddler walking around in a grown-up body. Yeah. And the original diagram had the toddler in the stomach area, in the gut. And just literally on a podcast an hour ago, we were talking about it, and I thought, oh my God, it's in the wrong place. The terrified toddler's in your head.
In the head, definitely in the head.
The adult part is in the heart and the gut, where your gut feelings come from, because there are neurons, literal neurons, in the heart and the gut, which you know too. And so the real knowing comes from the gut and the heart, and the terrified toddler thinking and analyzing and trying to understand and sort through things is in the head.
Yeah. And that's that. And again, if you zooming out, that's what we know about a toddler's kind of drive, is to try and make sense of a big, scary world, try to get safe, try to make sure they're not rejected, try to make sure that they're able to be in community, make sure that their needs are being met. So I really love, just even as soon as you said it's not in the stomach, it's like, no, it's literally in the mind. It's that, that scattered, that tired and wired, panicky feeling of just trying to find certainty in a world where there actually isn't a lot of certainty. And there's so much power and calm when we can surrender the need to have control of all the things. And I often talk about, Amanda, in my work, that the best way to feel out of control is to try to control everything. Like that's the quickest way to get out of control, is to try to control everything. Yeah.
And it's, you just hit on when I was saying, people set goals and vision boards. Well, I've never done that, because I don't know, ever since I was a little girl, I think, and started hearing about it, I would just, for example, the first time I became a speaker, I didn't know you could be a speaker. Yeah. And I went to a teeny meeting of about 6 professional speakers in Australia, honestly, 40 years ago, maybe more, probably more. And I had no clue. I was a physiotherapist with a psychology background. I didn't know what speakers earned. I didn't know you could be a speaker. So I said to one of the women, well, what do you earn? Because I didn't know. And she told me this massive amount of money. Like I made $30,000 back then, I think, as a physio, or maybe 20.
Yeah.
And she said something like 500,000. I went, what?
Yeah.
And I didn't think about it again, but it just went in, and I thought, oh, well, that's what speakers make.
Yes.
So I didn't set it as a goal or a target or anything. It just went unconscious.
Yes.
But I think when you set a rigid goal, it's almost as if God, universe, source looks down and goes, really? Is that all you wanted?
Yes.
I was going to give you a lot more, but oh, well, if that's all you want.
Yes.
So I came up with this acronym, and you touched on it this year. For me, it's STAR. So it's surrender, trust, awareness, and receiving.
Oh, I love that acronym. That's a goodie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so surrender, trust,
awareness.
And I love that one about receiving. Yeah. Cause I think sometimes we're the blockage we get in our own way. We get in our own way.
Like, how much of the time do we do that? Almost always.
Yeah.
But it's usually the stories we've told ourselves as the toddler. So it's,
Yes.
I'm not good enough, I'm not worth loving, I'm unsafe in some way, or I'm separate, I don't belong, I don't fit in.
Yes.
They're the three core fears that I reckon.
Yeah. And what I also think about when we see that kind of that shift to what that shows up as grownups in corporate is this idea of earning our worth, the hustle, perform, achieve, do culture. Yep. And that's why when, for example, there's any potential like threat to a restructuring or a change or any type of uncertainty, we actually see that, that terrified toddler take the steering, jump in and all of a sudden, they're huge resistors to change. And Amanda, I can share with you, I was working with a group who was in a process of restructuring a huge component of their workforce. And I'll tell you, as somebody who comes in and they say, oh, can you talk about resiliency? It's like, of course I can. And they're like, yes, because we're laying off 500 people. It's like, that is not my ideal way of supporting a group. But nevertheless, I was working with this group, and what we talked about was, I said, our identity and our roles within these jobs are important. They allow us to have a lifestyle and a livelihood. But I said, like, what's the fear? Like, losing your job. I hear that. That's the fear. Yeah. But like, what does that mean? Like, if you lose your job, then what happens? Yeah. And what was so interesting with so many of these groups that I was working with is that when we took a deeper dive, it actually wasn't the job. It was the ability to support their family, or their ability to pay their bills, or their ability to do X, or the ego component of the shame of being let go. And so for some of them, it had nothing to do with money. It was literally just this bruise to the ego that said, I was, declared redundant or let go.
It wasn't special.
It wasn't special. So then it was like, okay, so for the ones that it's ego driven, what we do as settlements or compensation, it's going to look way different for them versus the person who's worried about, how do I pay rent? And so when I was working with those leaders and kind of sorting through the noise of just losing my job, which again, I'm not minimizing that, it's significant. And within those responses, there were so many pieces of information that made it really clear, how do we support them? And the ego group, they just needed to be able to kind of control the narrative to a point, right, Amanda, where it wasn't like, it wasn't, it wasn't me. It was
I
them.
chose to leave.
Exactly.
I wasn't let go. I just chose to leave.
Exactly. Or, this new opportunity, or this, this better, bigger, better, because that helps the ego. And then the folks that it was around financial, what was so interesting in some cases, they're like, okay, well, that job's not going to be here, but this job it's similar pay. Are you okay to skill up, level up, new training to be able to be here in that role? And they were like 100%, right? So again, it's just so fascinating, the stories, and then that idea of how we show up for these, and when it's fear driven, but also when it's actually, if we can put some curiosity to it. So again, that's what made me think of that. Yes.
Well, but it's true, because everything in life, it's not about, these things fall out of my mouth when I'm on stage, right? And then there are these humdingers, and I go, oh, that's good. Everything in life is about feelings. Everything. Yes. And the feelings are driven by the thoughts. And if 95 to 99% of the time we're unconscious of our thinking, those stories we told ourselves as toddlers, repeated often enough, become a belief.
Yeah.
That belief is like, well, these will do, is like putting on a set of glasses.
Yeah.
And now the entire world is colored yellow.
Yeah.
I don't know it because these glasses I've been wearing for so long. But for someone to come to try to shift our perspective on something is, I guess, what speakers do, really. We create an environment that's safe enough for people to shift how they look at the world.
Yes.
And when those core fears are embedded, often I'll do this, there'll be, I do concentric circles, and in the center of the circle is you. When you're born, the essence of who you are. You come through that birth canal, boom. As a spiritual being, you are a spiritual being of love.
Yes.
Encased in a little tiny human format. And we're born love. I mean, babies don't go, oh, piss off.
Yeah.
They're not angry, bitter, twisted. They cry because they're hungry, and then they go,
your needs.
and they're asleep.
Yes.
And then they become toddlers. And anybody who's ever had a 2-year-old run towards them as they walk in the door, like you are the sun.
Yes.
It knows the love a toddler is.
Yes.
And then the next circle, so that's born. The next circle is 0 to 7. And it's in the epigenetics shows us 0 to 7 is when we embed those core fears.
Yes.
And so it's like malware goes in. And the source code, who you were as the original love being, which you still are, the source code gets corrupted by the malware. And then every other aspect of your life, every relationship, every job, everything is run on the corrupted code. And it's the awareness that that's what's running the code, and the ability to understand the fears and help the terrified toddler calm down.
Yes.
And learn to be.
Yes.
Because using your example of those people who are made redundant, you know, that each one of them, let's say there's 30 sitting in a room, every single one of them has got, their own little terrified toddler, and there's 30 terrified toddler responses.
Yes. Yes.
All based on the perception and the stories they told themselves and the version of their story.
Yeah, I love all of this. And I love how you're just braiding together like so many different schools of thoughts and ideas in a way that's like understandable. Like taking, we know that family systems theory that introduce us to the different parts of who we are. And again, picking up different kind of, again, as you say, with your language, with like that malware or, that, even one of the exercises I remember supporting a person with in coaching was, they were talking about their inner critic. And I was trying to invite them to say, like, how do we like reimagine this inner critic more as an inner coach? Like, what would the inner coach sound like? And give me some examples of, tell me what the inner critic would say, and then share, how do we reframe that to say, what would an inner coach say? And I remember having this like moment with this client because the client like paused, and you could tell like something happened. I'm like, and like, okay, something just clicked. What's going on? And they said, my inner critic sounded like this person, and my inner critic like literally was, sorry, but the inner critic was like this person. And it literally was the voice, the mannerisms, the tone, the language of this person. And it literally, when you said to, let's say, reframe this to the inner coach, it all of a sudden sounded like this person, a different person in their family system. And it was just so amazing that what you're saying with epigenetics, between 0 and 7, when that software is being installed or that virus gets in there, it could be a critical parent, a critical sibling. It could be, even just a world encounter that shifts for you.
Yeah.
But what I love is that what you said about that kind of essence of love is that when we have been fortunate enough to have positive, healthy kind of people in our world, sometimes that healing or that repair or that growth, they've already left some pieces of software behind.
Yeah.
Use your metaphor. So that way we can actually use that to help shift our thinking and shift, therefore, that narrative we carry forward.
And kind of like do a reboot. If we carry on with the computer metaphor, it's like a reboot. And I think the fastest way to reframe everything. So once you have this awareness of like the conversation we're having, people have heard the 3 core fears. They'll all go, oh my God, I got this one, or I got the trifecta like I did. And then the trick is to, first of all, know which story. Second, know when it started without having to dive in deeply and explore and go through pain and grief and blah, blah, blah. Just you'll get oh, that's when it started. Just like the inner critic person realized, oh, that was such and such a person. Yes. So you get a sense of it. And then that helps you understand why the toddler was so terrified, why they told themselves the story. Yeah. And then the next part is, and a mentor of mine, David Martin, gave me this. He says, who benefited? So, for example,
so good.
When I was 2, apparently my mother left for a year. And I remembered nothing of my childhood anyway, except for the odd moment, you know. And when she died, someone she went to live with in Canada, in Toronto actually, wrote to me this long, long letter, all handwritten. And I found out she'd left and she'd stayed away a year.
Wow.
I had no clue. She never mentioned it till the day she died. She had told me to reach out to this gentleman, and I had, but it seemed like it just wasn't the right time for us to meet. But then she died and I met him. So it made sense of everything I had done around my mother, because as a 2-year-old, I told myself, if I keep Mummy happy, she'll never leave me again.
Right.
So I spent the rest of my life till the day she died being responsible for my mother's happiness in whatever format I thought that would take.
Yeah.
And one of the major reframes that I think is so powerful that I probably teach as a core component, it's so simple, but it's so powerful. It's gratitude. Yes. And I teach people to do this with their fingers. And these are their gratitude glasses.
Yeah, I love it.
You know, if you choose to put on your gratitude glasses and look at everything that happens to you with gratitude, once you've processed instant pain, you know, then it changes stuff. Because if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have been like we all say, you know, I wouldn't be the person I am now if that hadn't happened. But it's true. Yes. It's true. Unless you absolutely hate yourself and you're a complete asshole, then the person you are right now with all your good qualities is as a consequence of that.
Yes. Yeah, that's powerful. I absolutely love that. And I think that's so remarkable because it was interesting, my undergrad, one of the areas of research I focused on was attachment. So the fact that you experienced that abandonment at 2, like that is going to create, again, just that legacy all the way through. And again, I really just hold space for what you said about felt responsible for the emotions of your mom. And it's hard when we take on these roles where we are the not just the knowledge keepers of things, but also the emotional, the emotional barometer of a family or a relationship or even a workplace where, we become we feel responsible for everyone's emotions, and
it irritates people.
Totally. It totally does. Tell me more.
No, you keep going.
I want to hear. No, please. I want to hear, please.
Well, I was just going to say that, in personal relationships, my responsibility for my mother's happiness morphed into responsibility for other people, morphed into responsibility for everyone.
Yes.
Demonstrated itself as I have this information. I can fix you. I can help you. I can, make things better for you. Well, A, nobody's broken. It took me forever to learn that. Yeah. B, not my job to fix them, and they don't want you to fix them.
Yep.
C, not everybody wants to be the beneficiary of my wisdom, and particularly in relationships.
Yes.
So it's taken me a very long time to come to terms with that. And in terms of the who benefited question, well, obviously my mother did, because I was Miss Goody Two-Shoes. I was perfect. Course. I never got into trouble, never drank, never blah, blah. And she was a great mother too. But I benefited in that I learned the lessons I came to learn, or I am learning them.
Yes.
And I have chosen to learn them. Mm-hmm. But I didn't necessarily benefit in the way you would say, oh, I had this lovely, happy childhood and a loving set of parents. My father was an alcoholic. And I just had the best marriage ever because I knew I was worth loving, and I attracted someone who also knew he was worth loving, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it benefits us a bit in that our growth, but not so much as usually the person we've adopted the responsibility for.
Fascinating. Okay. So Amanda, if you are someone who's listening to this, and I'm sure there's folks listening to this, like raising their hand saying like, that is me, she is describing, what were some of the early steps that you took to stop carrying the responsibility of other people's emotions? Or what were some of the first ways that, because again, I appreciate that's life work.
Yeah.
Where are just some of those like little dip our toe into the water? Where do we start as somebody who probably has tried to take on other people's emotions? Where do we even begin?
Well, firstly, obviously with awareness.
Yes.
And mine started in earnest. I've been working on myself, doing personal growth since I was 21.
Okay.
And I read Wayne Dyer's book, Your Erroneous Zones.
Yes.
And that started the journey. Then when I was 62, so I'm 72 now, so 62, and of course, writing the book on joy.
Yes.
The first chapter is, I think it's gratitude, because it's so fundamental. And the last chapter, which was twice the length of the others, which astonished me, I originally called equanimity.
Okay.
But I had to change it in the next version of the book to inner peace because nobody knew what equanimity was.
Okay.
and to get the inner peace, it was the combination of the previous 11 chapters.
Yes.
With gratitude, hope, love, compassion, generosity, listening, and I can't remember the others. But anyway, they're all in there. And so I started the work then. But when I met David Martin and did some more deep diving, he looked at me one day, and I'll look straight in the camera so you hear this.
Yes.
Whether insert your age. When you hear 62, insert your age.
Okay.
You have lived 62 years of your life based on the story of a 2-year-old. Do you wish to keep going? I had exactly the same response. I went, oh, damn.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And then it was and is an ongoing process of catching the 2-year-old going,
Yes.
and she doesn't always have to go, she can just go,
yeah. Yeah.
And in will jump the old patterns. So it's really been awareness and post-reflection. Yes. Probably. I hate to say it, but it's true. I'll walk away from someone and go, oh, no, I tried to fix them.
Yes.
And then I have to apologize and say, I'm really sorry, I tried to fix you. And then I would ask my friends, if you catch me starting to fix you, can you tell me?
Yes.
Because I'm not aware that I'm doing it. So as soon as I seem to be doing it, just let's have a signal.
Yes.
And I'll go, oh yeah, I was.
Yeah.
Or then I might reflect on a day, and if I can remember what happened during the day, if I catch in a replay myself doing that, I'll try to replay it again where I'm not trying to fix or not trying to take responsibility or not trying to control. That's the other thing. So that what gets embedded in my unconscious that night is the going with the flow type rather than the terrified toddler clinging to the edges going, no, it can't go that way.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so insightful. And again, I love that idea about that awareness piece, but also catching the behavior, start noticing the patterns, the kind of ways it like really loudly shows up, but also just the subtle ways that it shows up. And, you can replace fixing someone with like people pleasing, right? Like there are so many other behaviors that you can just interchange that language, or approval seeking. There's just so many different places that we can put energy towards learning more about those parts. And, oh my goodness. Well, Amanda, I could talk to you for days. Thank you so much for bringing some of these insights, your perspective, your story into this conversation with me today and the listeners. We'll make sure in the show notes to put lots of details as to how people can find you, your books, your work, also to bring you in for the great work that you do around, executive retreats and coaching and the work that you do from the stage. We'll make sure to share all of that because this is, you have hard-earned wisdom that I want to make sure that we could share. I appreciate you being here today. Thank you. Thank you for spending time with me on this episode of Life by Design. I appreciate if you have a moment to pay this forward, share it with someone who you think might benefit from the ideas shared in this episode. If you're feeling so inspired, please also rate and review the podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Again, thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. Take good care, and I'll see you next time.